The wrestling world just witnessed one of the most explosive moments in recent WWE history as Nick Aldis has officially suspended Drew McIntyre from Friday Night SmackDown. The Scottish Warrior has been removed from the Blue brand after a series of events that left the WWE Universe in absolute shock. This suspension comes at a time when tensions were already running high, and what unfolded has completely changed the landscape of SmackDown moving forward. If you want to stay updated on all the latest WWE drama and shocking moments like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel right now because things are about to get intense. The situation leading up to this suspension has been brewing for weeks, with Drew McIntyre finding himself in increasingly volatile circumstances. The former WWE champion has been on a path of destruction that has seen him clash with management, fellow superstars, and anyone who dares to stand in his way. His actions over the past several weeks have been nothing short of controversial, pushing the boundaries of what WWE officials are willing to tolerate. The Scottish powerhouse has been operating with a chip on his shoulder, feeling disrespected and overlooked despite his numerous accomplishments in the company. This mindset has led him down a dangerous road, one that has now resulted in serious consequences from SmackDown general manager Nick Aldis. Nick Aldis has been trying to maintain order on Friday Night SmackDown since taking over as general manager, but Drew McIntyre has made that task incredibly difficult. The tension between the two has been escalating week after week, with McIntyre seemingly going out of his way to challenge Aldis's authority. Every directive from the general manager has been met with resistance from the Scottish Warrior, who believes he deserves better treatment and more opportunities than he has been receiving. This power struggle reached a boiling point during the most recent episode of SmackDown when McIntyre crossed a line that Aldis could no longer ignore. The incident that sparked the suspension occurred during what was supposed to be a standard segment on SmackDown. Drew McIntyre was scheduled to address the WWE Universe about his future plans and his position within the company. However, what started as a typical promo quickly spiraled out of control. McIntyre unleashed a verbal assault that targeted not only his fellow superstars but also took direct shots at the management and the way SmackDown has been run. His words were sharp, cutting, and filled with frustration that had been building for months. The Scottish Warrior held nothing back, calling out what he perceived as favoritism and unfair treatment within the WWE system. As McIntyre's tirade continued, Nick Aldis emerged from the back to confront the situation head-on. The general manager attempted to restore order and remind McIntyre that there are rules and standards that must be followed on his show. However, Drew was in no mood to be lectured or controlled. The confrontation between the two men became heated, with neither willing to back down. McIntyre made it clear that he felt he had earned the right to speak his mind and that no one, not even the general manager, was going to silence him. The disrespect shown toward Aldis in that moment was undeniable, and it was clear that something had to give. What happened next shocked everyone in the arena and watching at home. Drew McIntyre physically shoved Nick Aldis, putting his hands on the general manager in a moment of pure aggression. This action crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed in WWE. Putting hands on management is one of the most serious offenses a superstar can commit, and McIntyre knew exactly what he was doing. The arena erupted in chaos as security rushed to the scene to separate the two men. Aldis, despite being physically confronted, maintained his composure and immediately signaled for McIntyre to be escorted from the building. The look on the general manager's face told the entire story. There would be consequences for this action. The following day, WWE officials released a statement confirming that Nick Aldis had indefinitely suspended Drew McIntyre from Friday Night SmackDown. The suspension is effective immediately, meaning McIntyre will not be appearing on the Blue brand for the foreseeable future. The statement emphasized that WWE takes any physical altercation with management extremely seriously and that such behavior will not be tolerated under any circumstances. Drew McIntyre's actions have now cost him his spot on SmackDown, removing one of the brand's top talents from the roster. This decision sends a clear message to the entire locker room that there are boundaries that must be respected, regardless of star power or past accomplishments. The WWE Universe has been divided in their reaction to this suspension. Some fans believe that Nick Aldis made the right call and that Drew McIntyre needed to face consequences for his actions. These supporters argue that allowing superstars to physically confront management without repercussions would create a dangerous precedent and undermine the authority structure within WWE. They praise Aldis for standing firm and not allowing McIntyre's status as a former champion to influence the decision. On the other hand, many fans sympathize with Drew McIntyre and feel that his frustrations were justified. These supporters believe that McIntyre has been underutilized and disrespected for too long, and his outburst was the result of pent-up anger from months of being overlooked. They argue that while his methods may have been wrong, his message resonated with truth. Drew McIntyre himself has not remained silent following the suspension announcement. Taking to social media, the Scottish Warrior posted a defiant message that made it clear he has no regrets about his actions. McIntyre stated that he would do it all over again if given the chance because sometimes standing up for yourself requires drastic measures. He criticized the WWE system for protecting certain superstars while leaving others to fight for scraps. His post garnered massive attention, with thousands of fans commenting their support and others condemning his behavior. McIntyre's social media activity suggests that this suspension has not humbled him in the slightest, and if anything, it has only fueled his fire to prove his point. The ramifications of this suspension extend far beyond just Drew McIntyre and Nick Aldis. Several ongoing storylines on SmackDown have been directly affected by McIntyre's absence. He was involved in feuds with multiple superstars, and those rivalries will now need to be put on hold or redirected entirely. The creative team behind SmackDown is scrambling to adjust their plans and fill the void left by one of their top performers. Some superstars who were scheduled to work programs with McIntyre will now need new opponents and new directions. This sudden change has created a ripple effect throughout the entire SmackDown roster, forcing everyone to adapt to the new reality. There is also the question of how long this suspension will last. WWE has labeled it as indefinite, which could mean anything from a few weeks to several months. The length of the suspension will likely depend on several factors, including whether Drew McIntyre shows any willingness to make amends with Nick Aldis and WWE management. If McIntyre remains defiant and refuses to acknowledge any wrongdoing, the suspension could be extended indefinitely. However, if he demonstrates remorse and agrees to follow the rules moving forward, there could be a path back to SmackDown relatively quickly. The ball is largely in McIntyre's court regarding how he wants to handle this situation. Behind the scenes, sources indicate that there have been discussions between Drew McIntyre and high-level WWE executives about the situation. These conversations have reportedly been tense, with McIntyre maintaining his stance that he was justified in his actions while WWE officials emphasize that physical contact with management cannot be overlooked. There is reportedly a divide within the company about how to proceed. Some executives believe that McIntyre should be made an example of to prevent future incidents, while others argue that he is too valuable a talent to keep off television for an extended period. These internal debates could ultimately determine how long the suspension lasts and what conditions might be set for his return. The suspension has also sparked conversations about the broader issue of how WWE treats its superstars and whether there is validity to McIntyre's complaints. Several wrestlers, both current and former, have commented on the situation, with some expressing solidarity with Drew and others supporting management's decision. This has opened up a larger discussion about the internal politics of WWE and whether certain performers truly do receive preferential treatment over others. While WWE publicly maintains that all superstars are given equal opportunities, many within the industry acknowledge that politics and favoritism have always been part of the wrestling business. Nick Aldis, for his part, has received praise from many quarters for how he handled the situation. As a relatively new general manager, he was put in an extremely difficult position when Drew McIntyre physically confronted him. By standing his ground and issuing a swift suspension, Aldis has established his authority and shown that he will not be pushed around by anyone on the SmackDown roster. This decision has earned him respect from many fans and fellow wrestlers who appreciate that he did not waver or show favoritism. However, Aldis also faces criticism from those who believe he escalated the situation unnecessarily and could have handled it with a less severe punishment. The timing of this suspension is particularly interesting given the upcoming WWE Premium Live events on the schedule. Drew McIntyre was expected to be involved in major matches at these events, and his absence will force significant changes to the card. Promoters are now working to find suitable replacements and create new matchups that will still draw fan interest. This situation has created both challenges and opportunities for other superstars who might now receive bigger spots on the card due to McIntyre's suspension. Some wrestlers are undoubtedly viewing this as their chance to step up and prove they can fill the void left by one of WWE's top stars. There is also speculation about whether this suspension could lead to Drew McIntyre appearing on Monday Night Raw instead. Since SmackDown has banned him from their show, could Raw general manager Adam Pearce extend an invitation to the Scottish Warrior to join the Red brand? This would be a controversial move that would likely anger Nick Aldis, but it would also be a way to keep McIntyre on WWE television while technically honoring the SmackDown suspension. Such a move would create an interesting dynamic between the two brands and could lead to future inter-brand conflicts. However, as of now, this remains pure speculation, and no official word has come from WWE about any potential brand switch. Drew McIntyre's supporters within the locker room have also begun speaking out about the suspension. Several wrestlers have expressed their belief that the punishment is too severe and that McIntyre was simply expressing frustrations that many in the back share. These superstars argue that WWE needs to do a better job of listening to talent concerns before situations escalate to physical confrontations. They point out that McIntyre is a former WWE champion who has given everything to the company, and treating him this way sends a negative message to the entire roster. These voices of support could put additional pressure on WWE management to reconsider the length and severity of the suspension. Conversely, there are also wrestlers who believe Drew McIntyre got exactly what he deserved. These superstars maintain that no matter how frustrated you are, putting your hands on management crosses a line that should never be crossed. They argue that professionalism must be maintained and that there are proper channels through which to air grievances. These wrestlers fear that if McIntyre is allowed to return too quickly without facing significant consequences, it could embolden others to act similarly when they disagree with management decisions. This divide within the locker room reflects the complexity of the situation and shows that there are valid arguments on both sides. The financial implications of this suspension are also worth considering. Drew McIntyre is a major draw for WWE, and his absence from SmackDown will likely impact ratings and house show attendance. Fans who tune in specifically to see McIntyre will now have no reason to watch SmackDown, potentially leading to a dip in viewership numbers. Additionally, merchandise sales featuring the Scottish Warrior could decline during his suspension, affecting WWE's bottom line. These economic factors could ultimately influence how long WWE keeps McIntyre off television, as the company must balance enforcing discipline with maintaining profitability. Social media has exploded with fan reactions to the suspension, with hashtags related to Drew McIntyre and Nick Aldis trending worldwide. Fans have created countless memes, videos, and posts analyzing every aspect of the situation. Some have created fantasy booking scenarios for how McIntyre could make his eventual return, while others debate whether the suspension was justified. This online engagement demonstrates just how invested the WWE Universe is in this storyline and how much attention it has generated. WWE is undoubtedly monitoring these reactions and will factor fan sentiment into their decision-making process regarding the suspension's duration. The suspension has also raised questions about the creative direction of both Drew McIntyre and SmackDown as a whole. Was this suspension part of a planned storyline, or was it a legitimate disciplinary action? In professional wrestling, the lines between reality and fiction are often blurred, making it difficult for fans to know what is real and what is scripted. Some believe this entire situation is an elaborate work designed to build sympathy for McIntyre and set up a major return storyline. Others insist that the suspension is a legitimate punishment for legitimate infractions. WWE has not clarified which interpretation is correct, allowing speculation to run rampant among the fanbase. Looking ahead, the question everyone wants answered is what happens next. Will Drew McIntyre return to SmackDown as a reformed character who has learned his lesson, or will he come back even angrier and more determined to prove his point? Will Nick Aldis maintain his hardline stance, or will he eventually be forced to lift the suspension due to pressure from higher UPS or fan demand? These questions will play out in the coming weeks and months, and the wrestling world will be watching closely to see how this situation develops. One thing is certain, when Drew McIntyre does eventually return to WWE television, it will be a major moment that generates significant attention and interest. The suspension of Drew McIntyre by Nick Aldis represents a pivotal moment in WWE history. It demonstrates that even the biggest stars are not above the rules and that management authority must be respected. At the same time, it highlights ongoing issues within WWE regarding talent treatment and whether all superstars truly receive fair opportunities. This situation has created compelling television and sparked passionate debates among fans, which is exactly what WWE wants. Whether you support Drew McIntyre or side with Nick Aldis, there is no denying that this storyline has captured the attention of the entire wrestling world. The coming weeks will reveal how this drama unfolds and what it means for the future of both SmackDown and one of its biggest stars. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss an update on this developing story and all the other shocking moments happening in WWE right now.